Hi, everyone. Welcome to our seminar tonight. Today, we're going to be talking about the different things that you should do or not do before you sell your home. The title of the seminar is called The $3,000 Prep versus the $30,000 Prep. And we're going to go through the difference between the different things that you can do, how much return on investment you get for each of those, which are worth it and which are not. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. And can you see that? All right. Perfect. All right. So today we're going to talk about what actually pays off when you sell. And I'm going to make us there. Okay, perfect. Okay, so a lot of people wonder when they first think about selling their home, how much they should spend on repairs, deferred maintenance, upgrades, updates, anything that you would normally do in order to get your home ready to sell. Should you renovate the kitchen? Should you replace your roof before you sell it? Do you need to do any of those things? Should you paint everything? Do your bathrooms need to be updated? What are people looking for when they're buying a house? Most people don't know, and that's absolutely normal. It's not your job to know. You sell a house maybe a few times in your entire life. Our job as a real estate agent is to give you advice on this. We spend a lot of time with both buyers and sellers, and we know what people look at, what they care about, what they don't care about, which things are going to get you a return on your investment, and which things are not. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit tonight. Here's what most sellers do wrong. Goes both ways. Mistake number one, you do nothing and you just hope for the best. You basically just sign the papers and people start coming to your house. That is usually, unless you live in a very pristine museum-like home, that is usually not the best strategy. We want to do a little bit something to get ready, but the second mistake is going too far in the other direction, that you spend $30,000 or even more trying to make your home perfect before you put it on the market. That is also not going to give you as much return on your money as you might think. And both of those are going to leave money on the table. And so we want to come to a happy medium somewhere in the middle where you're putting forth some effort to get the most out of your home, but you're not overspending and losing the money that you're putting out. So buyers do expect some updates. They do expect that your home is going to be clean. They want it to be fresh and they feel like it should be move-in ready. They don't want everything, well, they don't expect everything to be brand new. They don't expect luxury finishes and they don't always like your specific taste. Even if your taste is excellent, they may appreciate your decor, but it might not be something that they would like to live with. And I've seen this time again. I've actually seen it with homes that were redone by professional flippers where they've put in marble countertops. I've gone through with buyers, and the buyers said, I don't really like these. I think they're kind of ugly. So they spend all this money on these expensive countertops, and the buyers walked in and didn't like them. So there's a little bit of a story for why you should not do your own taste and don't try to spend a lot of money on that. There are basically three types of preparation spending. You've got high ROI, and if you don't know, ROI stands for return on investment. So if you put $100 out, you'll make $100 back if you have an even ROI. Or if you spend $100, you could make $500. That's even better. That's what ROI is when we talk about that for the rest of this seminar. So the first type of prep spending is a high ROI. That's something that pays you back 100% or more. So you're going to get more back than you're putting out up front. Number two would be something with a neutral ROI. That's break even. That's if you spend $100, you get $100. But sometimes what you get is a faster sale or a better offer. Those are also something that you should consider doing. And then the third one, this is colored red for a reason. This is what I call money pit. This is where you spend a lot of money, but you don't recoup that same amount of money. An extreme example of this would be putting in a pool in your backyard. 50% of people want a pool, 50% of people absolutely do not want a pool. So you've now spent 75, $100,000 to put a pool in to only appeal to 50% of the buyers. So you're not going to net that back. People aren't going to pay what you paid to install the pool over and above market value. Here is the first one that I suggest everyone takes a look at doing, and this is paint. Paint is such an easy way to make your house look fresh and new. It can even make, houses that are really not even that great look much better when they're freshly painted. Makes everything look better. The cost I have here is $2,000 to $4,000. That's really to pay someone to do it. Obviously, it's going to be a lot less than that if you are handy enough to do the painting yourself. And I always recommend a longer preparation time for selling your home. If you've been following along with this series, you know that preparation is really more than just 30 days. We're talking about several months. So paint a couple of rooms here and there as you're going through, as you're clearing them out, as you're decluttering, get them freshly painted and ready to go. Look how nice the picture of this home looks. You can see that these are very neutral colors and it looks really clean and neat. Buyers see this as move-in ready. And if you're someone like me who likes bold colors, if I were going to sell my home, I might paint all my walls a nice neutral color. I don't particularly like that, but I'm not going to be living there and I want my home to sell as quickly as possible. So I want to appeal to the most number of buyers as possible. Deep clean and clean the carpet. This pays back 100%. So if you've got wall-to-wall carpeting, have it cleaned. It really is not very expensive. They'll come in a day, clean the carpet. It's going to be fresh. It's going to look 100 times better. It's going to smell clean. And if you are not able to do the deep cleaning of the rest of the house yourself, you can have a cleaner come in or a crew of cleaners. And if you don't have one, I can make a recommendation. And they will come in and they will do the baseboards. They'll do the tops of your cabinets. They'll do all those places that you don't normally get to and that buyers will actually notice. And the thing that's interesting is that buyers will notice the little bit of dirt, and they also notice when your home is sparklingly clean. And you wouldn't think that it makes it that big of an impression, but it subconsciously tells buyers that you have a pride of ownership and that you take care of your home. So when it's clean, they're thinking maintenance. The next one on the list is curb appeal, and this also pays back 100% because it's really pretty inexpensive to do something like this. Your investment is maybe $500 to $1,500. You're going to want to do fresh mulch if you've got flower beds. Make sure your grass is cut, edges trimmed. Power wash the outside of the house, especially if you live in an area where you get that little bit of mold, that green color on your siding. Power wash and it'll look like brand new, and it doesn't cost much of anything. Even if you have to rent a power washer or pay someone to do it, it's very inexpensive. The payoff is almost one-to-one, if not more on this. People are going to drive by your home before they even decide whether they want to come and see the inside. And while they can see the pictures, the outside, they're going to physically see that usually before they make an appointment. So it's very important. I can't tell you how many times I've walked up to a house that's been really well done on the outside with buyers. Maybe the inside wasn't even as nice as the outside, but the outside just made them feel like they were ready to see this wonderful house when we walked through the front door. Couple of things you can do really fast. If you've been spending the winter getting the inside ready, when the spring comes and you're ready to list, maybe you don't want to take the time to plant the flowers, the annuals that you normally plant. Trick that I've done for myself in the past is if you've got this big open space of a flower bed and you need to put plants in it, buy the potted plants that the hanging baskets and just plant the entire basket. It'll give you a mix of flowers. It looks absolutely amazing. And you really only need a couple of those to add color to your flower beds. Certainly a couple of potted plants on the porch looks amazing. Anything like that's going to make it look much better. You can even find things at the dollar store to jazz up your front porch. Okay, this is the boring part. Those are the fun parts. This is the boring part, but these are things that are also necessary to do. Your HVAC, you must get that maintained. If you don't already do that once a year, make sure that you have someone come in and do a service on your HVAC. If it's winter or if it's spring or fall, that's when you're going to want to have either the AC or the heat. Somebody's going to have to take a look at it, kind of clean the system, excuse me, and do those upgrades. The roof, you may or may not need to do the roof. And I would say that's not something that I would do right out of the gate, but be aware that if your roof is at the end of its life, the buyers may have a hard time getting insurance on the house. So it might be something that you have to do in order to sell the home. And then a water heater, that's another one. Budget for it, but it doesn't necessarily need to be done. Hot water heaters are good until the day they're not good. So you really use it up until the time it breaks. But if it's on its last legs, you kind of know when that's the case. So just budget for that, especially if it happens during the period where you're listed or during the period when you're under agreement. These things can cost between $5,000 and $15,000 or a little bit more, depending on what things have to be done. But they are break even because they need to be done in order to sell the home. Now, I always recommend doing a pre-inspection, a pre-sale inspection, so that you know what problems buyers are going to see. They can get that inspection. They're going to feel good about the house, and you're going to have a chance to do some of those repairs before it comes on the market. So buyers are going to find those anyway, and it's better to fix it on your timeline. Okay, then we come to the very last one on the list, minor repairs. These are also break even, but they're necessary. So these are things like leaky faucets, loose handles, broken tiles, caulk, if your door sticks, anything like that. Take the time to do those little repairs that you have learned to live with, the quirks that you have started to ignore. Fix those so that they don't become a big issue for buyers. They add up, and they kind of create a feeling that a buyer may not put into words. They won't say that they're not buying your house because it has a leaky faucet or because it has a cheap doorknob that won't stay shut. But those things make them feel a certain way about the home, and they also make them feel a certain way about the kind of maintenance that you would have done on the home over time, even if it's not true. Okay, now we're on to the other side of things. This is where we see where the return is not there. Many people hear that kitchens sell houses. Kitchens do sell houses, but if you don't already have a spectacular kitchen and you decide to put one in time, just in time to sell it, you're not going to get the return on the expense. You will only get about 50 to 70% of that cost back, and that's if you're lucky. It is not a one-to-one, and the buyers are not going to want the same thing that you want, and they're going to redo some of the stuff anyway. If you go back to that story I told about the marble countertops, had those people liked the house enough to buy it, they probably would have ripped out those countertops that they had just spent all that money on and put in. So don't do major renovations to the kitchen unless it is truly, truly in need of something major. The next one kind of goes along with the kitchen, but it could really be anywhere in the house. Luxury upgrades are a money pit. If people want a specific luxury upgrade, they will do it when they move in. This can be anywhere from super high-end finishes or custom anything, and you will definitely lose money on those because look at this. There's the example. Only you wanted marble counters. Turns out that was a good example. I guess I thought of it before when I wrote the presentation, but it is really very true. Another example of this is a smaller example, but it goes along those same lines. Another flip that I saw where the people went in and, they were doing this for a living. They bought the house, they renovated it, put it back on the market just a few months after they purchased it. My buyers went through, could not understand for the life of them why they had $400 toilet seats. They had these special toilet seats that heated and cleaned, and there was a bidet. It was all of these different things. And there was one in every single bathroom. And I think to myself, the buyers thought they were weird. They wanted to take them out. And these people were trying to show that this was a luxury home, but they chose an option that the buyers just thought was goofy. So it just goes to show that when you spend money on an upgrade, it's not always to the taste of everyone. So do it clean, do it nice, but do it very vanilla. That's the word I like to remember. If you can make it appeal to the most people, you're going to have the best success as you move forward. Here's what good enough looks like. And that's really what you should be aiming for. Clean and functional, no major damage. I mean, clean, I can't stress the word clean enough. That is number one. And if that is the only thing, if that's the one thing you can do, get everything super clean. The next one is the fresh paint. Fresh paint, clean grout. They make all kinds of things that can brighten up your grout now. If you just go to the hardware store, you'll find all different kinds of very easy to use things. It makes it look really crisp and neat. Make sure your appliances are working. That's going to be discovered by the buyer anyway. Why make it problem? Fix them right up front. And then bathrooms, same thing goes for the bathrooms. Kitchens and bathrooms are the rooms that they really want to see that they're nice and clean because they're the two things that will gross people out more than anything else, to be honest with you. So bathrooms are a little bit different. They can be almost as expensive as kitchens to fully remodel, depending on how big your bathroom is and what you have in there. But you can do some upgrades. If you've got a vanity, for instance, from the 1960s or the 70s, and it's flake board and it just looks like terrible, looks like junk, you can replace that for a few $100s with a nice clean one from Lowe's or Home Depot. And that's not a really big expense, and it's not a full bathroom remodel, but it is going to completely change the way your bathroom looks. Okay, so these are things that we can talk about. If you have any questions about this with your specific scenario, give me a call. I can walk through. You can show me the things you're talking about. We can sit down and make a plan for how to best bring your house to the market. Okay, so back to the pre-listing inspection. This is really the secret weapon, and I can't tell you how few people use this. You are going to be so far ahead of the rest of the market if you heed my advice on this. The cost of a pre-listing inspection is only $400 to $600. And people say, but Randyl, the buyers are going to do inspections. They're going to pay that money. Why should I do this beforehand? Well, I'm going to tell you why. The value of this really is priceless. Put yourself in the buyer's shoes. You are looking at two homes. They're right next to each other. They're exactly the same. One has an inspection, a pre-listing inspection that the listing agent is going to give to your agent. You're going to have a chance to review all of those things. The other one is a mystery. It doesn't have that. Obviously, the buyer is going to lean towards the property that has the pre-listing inspection. Just in general, they want to know what's wrong with the house before they walk in. And here's what else. Even if there's repairs that are not done, and you do have an opportunity to tick some of those things off before you put it on the market. So that's one thing you can do, is cross off the small things. But even if you don't, the buyers will go into the sale knowing what those things are, not wondering what those things might be. And like so many things, their imagination is always going to be worse than the reality. And so what I see is that when they have a pre-listing inspection, buyers are often trying to scrape together enough cash for their down payment, for their closing costs, the movers, everything else. And so they will often waive inspections if there's a pre-listing inspection because they feel comfortable that they already know what's wrong with the house. And guess what? If they waive inspections, there's no negotiation. After you are under agreement, they're not coming back to you and they're not going to ask for $1,000 in repairs or $2,000 in repairs or credits or anything like that. So it really gives you the control. You are going to control the narrative. You fix the things that are easy for you to fix. You skip the ones that you either can't do or don't have the money to do, whatever it is, and the buyers are going to love this. It's going to really set you apart in the market. Okay, here's a tale of two sales. This is an example of what could happen. So, the original plan is to renovate the kitchen and get a new roof, and the total cost would be about $57,000 for that. The revised plan, after I walked through, we talked about the things that could be done. We're going to do the pre-inspection. That's about $500. They're going to do paint, clean the carpets, and add some curb appeal, $5,000, and then another $1,500 for minor repairs. So we're talking about $7,000 total to prep the house. Now, here's what might happen. And I've seen this scenario more than once. So we list the house at $575 because that's what the other similar homes on the market are listed for. Those other homes, maybe they didn't do the same level of preparation. They didn't do fresh paint. They didn't do the curb appeal. So now we have all the buyers coming to our house because ours is the one that's priced the best and it shines more than the other ones that are on the market. So you get multiple offers. It sells for $585. That's a modest increase. It's only $10,000 over asking price, but it was only on the market for 12 days. So you saved $50,000 on prep by not doing the other things that we were talking about. And you would net 578, and that can vary after closing costs. But let's just say that's where you were. So if you spent $57,000, you wouldn't have gotten a penny more for the house. This house would sell the same whether it had a new roof or not. It's unfortunate. I tell buyers that a new roof is worth way more than it ever looks on the price, but that's the way it is. Okay, just to sum it up, here's what to fix in each room of the house. In the kitchen, we're going to clean, paint, and fix broken things. We are not going to renovate anything. If there's caulk, we're going to try to make it clean. In the bathrooms, we're going to do a deep clean. We're going to recaulk the tub, and we're going to replace any worn fixtures. If there's grout, we're going to try to clean that up a little bit, make it look nice. Bedrooms are pretty easy. We're going to paint them with a fresh coat of paint, neutral paint. If there's carpets, we're going to clean them. And if they're stained or we can't do anything with that, we might want to replace it depending on how bad it is, or just rip it out and put some regular flooring in there. Living areas is the same. Living area is one of the most important things is to declutter, but we're also going to paint and clean, which is a lot easier to do if you start with declutter. On the exterior, we're going to worry about curb appeal. We want to power wash if the house is dirty, and we want to make sure that the landscaping is always done and that it stays neat and that you've got flowers and a little bit going on outside for when the people first get there. And then the basement. Basements can be very difficult depending on what kind of basement you have, but make it as clean as you can. Dehumidify it. If it is a damp basement, run a dehumidifier down there. It's better than having one that walks down and feels musty when you go down there. And just try to make it usable. I know some of you may have a house that was built in the 1800s. You have a dirt floor. You do the best that you can, but you want to make it so that it feels as cheery as possible and that it's not some creepy basement that nobody wants to go in. Okay, so here is the breakdown, the $3,000 versus the $30,000 breakdown. So the smart prep package is the $3,000 to $7,000, depending on whether you're paying people to do things or whether you're doing some of these things yourself. When you spend that smaller number, you are going to get 100% of that back and more when you sell your home. It's going to sell faster and it's going to sell for more money because you've done those things. On the other side, you've got the money pit. This is the $30,000. This is the kitchen renovation, all of the major repairs, and you just won't recoup that. You might be able to list for a little bit more, but you're only going to get 50 to 70% of that back. Okay, so your takeaway from this, get a pre-listing inspection. If you know you're going to list, get that done and start working on the punch list. Make a list of the things that you would like to fix, your high ROI versus your money pit items, and then try to only do the ones that are going to bring value to your sale. Budget for painting, cleaning, and curb appeal. And I'm going to say to this to if you don't have the funds for that $3,000 to $7,000, you can do most of this, most of what's needed to do either by yourself with some cleaning supplies or for a few $100s with some paint. And between those two things, if your house is clean and you freshly paint it, you're going to be miles ahead of where most people are. So a little bit of elbow grease can replace that budget if you don't have the money to do that. Fix the minor repairs, anything like the faucets, the handles, anything like that. If you can do that, please get those done. Buyers will notice them. And then skip the major renovations. Okay, so you're going to want to spend smart, not more. And that's the good news. So if you'd like to talk about prepping your home, let me know. You can certainly call me anytime or send me an email and we can set up a meeting. I would love to come out and walk through your home. Even if you're not thinking about doing it for a couple of years, that's fine. It's never too soon to start working on that and give yourself enough time to get it done. Okay, let's see if we have any questions in the chat. All right, sounds like everybody knows what's going on. So thank you for attending, and I hope that we'll see you all next week. Have a good night.